Are you using the right tools to help you reach your exercise goals? On this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, we're going to dive into what the tools are that you should be using to reach the vast majority of exercise goals and how you can go about utilizing them throughout your day, throughout your week. We're going to cue our introduction and dive right into this conversation. And welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Muscle Activation Schaumburg. We're your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we're discussing this idea of the tools that you use while you work out and how those different tools can influence your ability to achieve the goals that you have from your workout. But we want to let you know if what we are discussing today is of interest to you and you want to take action on it, it's exactly what we can help you do at our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg, where we specialize in using muscle activation techniques. All you have to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to www.matschaumburg.com, click the big green button that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. So Julie, this idea of the right tools, this came up in a conversation that we were having based on an experience that you had not too long ago while doing some DIY projects around our house. So why don't you kick it off and kind of tell us catch us all up to speed of what was going on.
All right. So I'm working on painting the trim of my house. So there are some really tall areas, there's some really short areas. And so, as time is going on, I'm slowly analyzing how am I going to handle the tall areas? Am I even going to do the tall areas? Do I have the appropriate equipment to do the tall areas? And for a while, I was like, yes, I can do all of it because Charlie and I have the amazing ladder called the Little Giant. And it's supposed to be like the ladder that does everything. It's kind of like a generalist when it comes to a ladder. I mean, it gets... it does like that V shape, right? Upside down, so you look like it's like a triangle. And it also can go straight, where then it can be like one of those angled ladders. I'm sure there's technical names for this, but y'all know what I'm talking about. And then it like extends and shortens, right? But in my painting of even painting the first level, I got the Little Giant out. We were hanging, and I got, pretty high on there. And I got the first level of the house done. It was pretty great. But then I had thought, what am I doing here? Let's just try the second story, right, of our house. We have like a big peak on the side of our house. So I thought, it'll be a gradual increase. It kind of starts at the first level, and then I'll just keep working my way up. And as I kept looking at this thing, I was like, it is just impossible for me to use this Little Giant to do this thing. Like, this is not designed for getting any type of like high-reaching areas, even though it looks like it should be able to do that. And so anyways, I was talking to my neighbor, and I looked on the side of their house, and I realized that they had one of those aluminum gigantic ladders that is just like a flat ladder, but like extends, you know what I'm talking about? Like kaleidoscopes, is that the right word?
Sure.
Yeah, anyways, it like extends out, or you can make it short, and I was like, oh, can I borrow that? And I was literally floored. Of course, she said yes. So I borrowed the ladder, and I was doubting if I could do like that peak on the side of my house. But with this new ladder, I thought, oh my gosh, this does not even feel high at all. I feel so secure. I can position this properly. And I could not believe that just the change in the ladder changed my entire viewpoint on my ability to do this. In fact, I'm like, I think I can do the whole thing. Like, most of this house, I can do now. And I told Charlie, I said, it's crazy because from the outside, it looks like our generalist of a ladder, the Little Giant that does quote unquote everything, would be amazing. And it was amazing to a certain point. But when I developed really specific goals, like I really needed to get really high, or I needed to be able to fit in a skinny space, it really checked out, meaning like it did not work anymore. And then this the new ladder that my neighbor had, the really tall one, it was lighter weight, but it was longer, could go taller, but it only had one setting of straight, right? It actually worked better, and I could not believe how quickly I got it done also. And I said, Charlie, you know what? It's amazing, and I really can't even believe that I'm saying this, that little tiny switch in a tool changed my entire ability to get the job done, to achieve the goal of painting this certain side of the house or certain heights in the house. And I said, you know what, we got to do a podcast on that because the tool matters so much when you're trying to get specific goals.
Exactly. You sat me down and you're like, look, this is what happened today.
I know. I was like, I couldn't believe it.
You're like,
I was literally
I got a
blown
ladder.
away.
I'm like, we have a ladder. You're like, no, I got one of those straight ladders. I'm like, our ladder does go straight. It's like, no, I got one of those really light straight ladders. And I'm like, well, I guess our ladder is kind of heavy, so maybe that's a little bit different. You're like, it made all the difference.
It was
made
amazing.
It was so easy.
Yeah.
And so it brings up a really interesting point where a lot of times outside looking in, when, relating this back to working out, outside looking in, we can look at various pieces of equipment. We can look at various, workout methodologies and everything like that and be like, oh yeah, it's kind of like that, or, that looks similar to that and everything along those lines. But like you were saying, Julie, like when you have a very specific goal in mind, the tools that you use to help you get there 100% matter. 100% without question matter. And it doesn't matter if it kind of looks like it, like if your ladder also goes pretty long and straight, it's not the exact thing. It makes a huge difference in how easily you can do it and how quickly you can achieve your goals. So I love this story and I love this analogy because it does relate back perfectly to what we believe about exercise and working out and fitness. Because the reality is the vast majority of goals that people have, especially as they get older, the primary thing that is going to influence that person's ability to reach their various goals, no matter how, over this, across the spectrum they are, the thing that is going to have the biggest influence on their ability to reach their goals is their physical strength, is how strong their body is, how strong their muscles are. And the stronger you can get your body, the easier time you're going to have to reach any of the other goals that you have from your workouts, whether it's climbing stairs, whether it's, being able to, feel completely, independent around your house. You don't have to hire people to, do your yard work or anything like that because you have the physical capacity to do that. All the things that you're wanting to do in your life, whatever goals or outcomes you're having from your workouts, the thing that is going to influence that the most, hands down, bar none, is your strength. And when it comes to building your strength from your workouts, there are some very specific things that need to be done, and in our opinion, tools that should be utilized on a regular basis to help you do that. And so if you feel like, I'm not getting to my goals with my workouts, I feel like, I'm trying to put in the effort, but, it's not happening as quickly as I would like it to. It may just be that you are putting in the effort, but you just need to switch the tools that you're using. And so we want to talk about our perspective on that and what we believe the tools are that you should be using.
That's right. It's kind of like if we jump back to the analogy and you're like, hey, Julie's a DIYer. Yeah, she owns a stepladder. Then you can kind of assume like, okay, I can kind of see the kind of DIY stuff that she could do, given the tools she owns and she has mastered. Or I can say now, I have a little giant, right? Now I kind of know the limits of the little giant ladder. Or I could be like, yeah, and I have that kaleidoscoping giant thingy, right? Given the tools that I own and I've mastered, can kind of tell you how serious I am and how, I guess, advanced I am with my DIYing skills. So oftentimes with clients, we ask like, hey, what's your physical life like, right? So what tools have they mastered in their physical life? Is it walking? Great, that is a step, but it is very far from if you only walk, it's very far from like owning that big kaleidoscoping ladder, right? That's very specific to a goal. And so when we're thinking about what would be really specific and very effective at addressing the goal of keeping, building, maintaining strength, and it's going to be weight training all the time. Every day it's going to be weight training. And so when people don't weight train, that is a big flag that tells us, hey, that is a tool that if they are struggling with strength or they have an interest in keeping strength, we need to help teach them how to master that one, right? It can't be, that strength goal can't be filled in with a tool of walking. It can't be filled in with a tool of Pilates. It can't be filled in with a tool of bar class or stretching class. Those all have their outcomes, right? They have a place, but it's not strength. And it's not going to be the correct tool to fill in when you are wanting to build your strength or maintain your strength.
Absolutely. A tool that I hear brought up often, especially by a lot of my male clients in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, is they'll be like, well, I don't really lift weights all that much, but I golf. And it's like in their mind, their tool for now building their strength is golfing. They're like, well, I carry my bag and I walk. And so it's like, okay, now your tool for getting physically stronger as a man in your 40s, 50s, and 60s has become carrying your golf clubs and walking. And when you break it down like that, it's like, okay, dude, you need to get some new tools. And you need to be focusing on building your strength. Okay, if you need your knees to get stronger, your tool can't be golf. Your tool can't be walking. If you need your shoulders to get stronger, your tool can't be pickleball. You have to use tools that are actually designed to help you get to that goal, not just, fingers crossed that's going to be, an ancillary benefit of doing the activity of whatever it is, whether it's golf, pickleball, walking, whatever, right? Okay. So how do we go about doing this, right? Look, in our viewpoint, one of the most underutilized things from a strength training perspective are machines. All right. The workout machines that the fitness industry has said, oh, those are evil. Don't do that. You just need to be doing, body weight and bands and, the suspension straps, everything like that. That's the stuff you need. We're saying, if you actually want to build strength, those weight training, strength training machines are arguably the single most effective tools that you can have at your disposal. All right. Now, the truth of the matter is you're probably going to have to go to a gym to get, to be able to do that, to be able to use those. But you got to ask yourself, okay, well, how important is this goal actually to me? All right. Like, if it's that much of an inconvenience to go to a gym and take the time to drive there and get the membership and everything like that, if that is enough of an inconvenience to dissuade you from, from getting the goals that you're wanting to get, then you got to ask yourself, well, actually, how important are those, goals to me? Because the truth of the matter is, there is, in our opinion, no replacement, no adequate replacement. Yes, you can do other stuff and see improvements in your strength. We're not saying that. What we're saying is we're talking about the most effective tool. Yeah, Julie probably could have figured out a way to use the little giant to paint the second story of our house. It wasn't the most effective tool. It would have taken way longer. She would have had way more concerns along the way, possibly some injuries. Okay, like there was a lot of other stuff that could have come up. Once she got the right tool, it was very easy, very straightforward. Same goes with strength training. When you start using machines, that goal of improving strength, which then carries into the goal of, hey, I don't want my knees to hurt as much. Hey, I don't want my shoulders to hurt as much. Hey, I don't want my back to hurt as much. All that stuff, it becomes way more streamlined, way easier to achieve because you're using the right tools.
Now, this brings us to our next tool. And when we're thinking about tools to use on your body, we're thinking about, we know we have to build strength. And in anyone's body, whether you're building strength or losing strength or doing nothing, maybe you're just plateauing, you're going to need a tool to maintain your body and how it's functioning, to keep it tuned up, to keep it feeling good. Now, a lot of people will use different, routines. This is like recovery stuff. For us, it's hands down MAT. You got to be using muscle activation techniques. MAT is one of the best ways to make sure that you keep your body maintained, meaning it's functioning well, it's well oiled, it's not developing aches and pains, or if you do have aches and pains, they're going away slowly or quickly, depending on what you have going on, without some of the negative side effects. And the most common side effect of a lot of recovery routines that people don't realize is not only are they taking time off from their strength training, but they're also losing strength. A lot of recovery modalities that release muscles or relax or lengthen muscles, they actually make you lose strength. They make you lose strength. And as we're aging, one of the main goals is to build strength. So make sure you're using a tool like MAT that not only helps you stay well-oiled and moving well, but it also promotes your strength. This, a really good analogy of this is like, I don't know if you guys know anything about exercise machines, but you guys probably realize that Charlie and I think about exercise machines a lot. And I'm sure there's other things in life that are similar to this. But when you have exercise machines, have you guys ever seen like the structure where the weights kind of are guided up and down? We call these like guide rods. Okay, and so sometimes, machines get worn and used and we have to like tune them up, right? And your normal thought, at least my normal thought before I was, introduced into the exercise world was like, well, let's lube them up with like WD-40, like get them oiled up, right? And that makes sense because like if my, joint on a door starts getting funky, I like squirt some of that stuff in there and then it glides smoothly. Okay, so that would be my first thought. And then I was either at a class or Charlie said this and they were like, well, that's exactly what we don't want to do. Because although for a moment it's gonna glide smoother up and down, what is all over those rods now? Sticky, goopy, slimy oil, right? And what's gonna happen as air goes by, right? It builds up dust, right? And over time, that dust then clogs the system and then makes it worse and makes it worse and makes it worse. And so some of the things that we do to keep our bodies maintained are like lubing the guide rods. We're like temporarily, we're like, that was good. But in the end, it actually goes against our main goal of maintaining strength. So with machines, if you have a machine and you just want the correct answer, you just have to wipe them down. You got to keep them clean, but don't add oil, right? So when it comes to keeping your body moving well, keeping it functioning well, keeping your joints articulating well, feeling good, feeling pain-free, you want to make sure you're using something that promotes strength and your function, not just makes you feel good temporarily, because that can over time build up into something that you're having to repair much more intensely later.
Exactly. So the bottom line is the vast majority of fitness related goals that people have are heavily influenced by how strong their body is. And by getting their bodies stronger, getting their muscles stronger, they'll have a much easier time achieving those goals. But how you go about trying to strengthen your body makes a big difference. You need to make sure that you're using the right tools in order to do that. So during your workouts, you're incorporating using strength machines. And between your workouts, you are promoting the recovery of your muscles and of your body with modalities that promote strength, such as muscle activation techniques. And if you can do those two things, focus on building strength using machines while you're working out, and then between your workouts, focus on promoting your recovery, doing activities that also are aligned with promoting your strength, such as muscle activation techniques. Not only will you see much faster improvements in your strength, you will see a much faster ability to achieve the goals that you're wanting to get from your workouts. So if you're hearing this right now and you're like, okay, great, I'm ready to get started on this. I realize that strength really is a primary driver of me getting to do the things I want in life and achieve the goals that I have with my workouts. How do I get started? With us here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, the first step is going to be assessing your body with muscle activation techniques to figure out where you have muscles that are not being utilized, that are weak, that are not as strong as they should be, and then get those muscles functioning better, get those muscles stronger. So then when we transition into more traditional strength training, you have a fully operational body to use with your traditional strength training. So if you are in the Chicagoland area or willing to travel to Chicagoland area and are wanting to work with us here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, all you have to do to see our availability and get on our schedule is go to our website, www.matschaumburg.com. On our website, there's a big green button you can click that says Get Started, and you can schedule yourself for your initial MAT consultation and assessment. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. We always appreciate your time and attention, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or watching us on YouTube. If you wouldn't mind, share this with somebody that has specific goals that they're wanting to achieve from their workouts, but feels like this process is taking longer than I would expect, so they can understand the tools that they need to be using in order to streamline their ability to achieve those goals. If you wouldn't mind leaving us a rating and review on whatever platform you listen to us or watch us on, we always appreciate it. Well, thank you again for tuning in. We are wishing you a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.
This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlotte Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.